These are the strong Santa Anas coming out of the northeast, and it pushes out towards the southwest, where already we have been clocking at observation sites near the Pepperdine area gusts up to 50 miles an hour, and the gusts could continue to range between 35 to 60 miles an hour is still possible. And the low relative humidity at the Pepperdine observation site, it was checking in at 6%. So we're incredibly dry. So a lot of dry vegetation in place through not just that area, but throughout Southern California. The red flag conditions remain in effect through at least this afternoon. And unfortunately, the Malibu area, the Santa Monica Mountains, and downwind across areas of our interior valleys still under these threats. We will continue to watch the winds, and unfortunately, the winds are expected to increase in strength in some locations. As we take a look at our futurecast at this hour, the areas in the highlighted contours, those are the areas mostly impacted by these strong winds, and this applies to the Santa Monica Mountains, the Ventura County Mountains, out towards the San Gabriel Mountains, and yes, downwind of the 15 through the Cajon Pass, out towards the San Bernardino Mountains and the Santa Ana Mountains. So this is a widespread, unfortunate wind event. As we progress into even later part of this morning, the winds continue to be very strong, as you can see there in the very exact locations. What is going on is area of high pressure in conjunction with upper level support. It's helping to drive these descending winds through the canyons and passes. It becomes stronger, and unfortunately that's what we're seeing play out. Now by Tuesday evening, you'll notice that the highlighted areas are decreasing in intensity, where wind speeds will gradually decrease, but unfortunately it's still strong enough to pose that threat. We have been very, very dry, and going into even later tonight, winds still in the highlighted area, those very same vulnerable locations, those wind-prone areas. It's not going to be until at least Wednesday morning before we really notice the winds subsiding. But right now, unfortunately, we are in the thick of it. Just to give you an idea of how dry we are, we have been very dry for October, the beginning of the water year. Downtown LA has only picked up 14/100ths of inch of rain, and now we are in December, and the first week of December has been dry. We have not picked up any measurable rain, and currently this entire week going into this weekend, no rain is in the forecast outside of just really strong winds. Now, this is a long duration Santa Ana wind event. Again, it will last through at least tomorrow before we see some improvement in terms of not just wind conditions, but low relative humidity. At this hour, unfortunately, we have the perfect conditions, not just the gusty winds that continue to dry us out, but the dry fuel from this past summer. We had record-breaking rain due to the atmospheric rivers that came into place the last water year, and unfortunately added additional brush and foliage growth, and all that foliage and vegetation is dried out during the summer, and now we're approaching a very dry winter. And this is Santa Ana season that we're dealing with, the strongest so far we've seen this season, with wind gusts of up to, as I mentioned, could push up to 60 miles an hour. If we reflect on what even happened last month, the beginning of November, due to the mountain fire, was also triggered by some very strong Santa Ana winds. And as we have all witnessed, when a fire is to start in the middle of strong winds, it could rapidly grow and become erratic and out of control. And unfortunately, that's what we are seeing play out in the Malibu area. And the most important thing for folks to remember is life. Firefighters are, of course, focused on protecting life. That is the most important thing. If you are in the fire zones that have not been evacuated yet, heed those warnings, get ready, get set, and go when told to do so. Again, we watch these winds very closely, and unfortunately, we are in the thick of it currently.
All right,
Brooke, Alex.
Samana Khan, thank you so much. Now 3:30 in the morning. You are watching special early coverage. We are on covering a Franklin fire burning right now in Malibu. We want to go back to Gigi Graciette. We're having some communications challenges, so Gigi can't really hear us, but Gigi, take it away.
Good morning. We're going to apologize beforehand because we have very spotty communication with you. So if I'm talking and I talk over you, I apologize. Let me show you what's happening here. I am standing in the parking lot of the Santa Monica College Malibu campus building. The Los Angeles County Sheriff also has a communications tower here, and you can see the fire is burning directly behind the building. Now, there are multiple resources, firefighters staged up and down the hillside here. Obviously, structure protection, a major concern. We are unfortunately already hearing about lost structures, whether those are outbuildings, whether those are businesses, or whether those are homes. We don't know yet, but we are beginning to hear that structures have been lost, which is obviously something you never want to hear during this major fire, which has now grown to well over 1,000 acres. Now, if you're just tuning in, the Franklin fire in Malibu started just before 11 o'clock last night, and fueled by these dry brush and fanned by the Santa Ana winds. And the wind is light right now, thankfully, but it is sending those embers. The fire has made its way to Pacific Coast Highway, which is shut down right in front of the Malibu Beach Inn, the Malibu Plaza. The fire is also burning directly behind that shopping center. And again, we're at the Malibu campus of the Santa Monica College. All eyes on this hillside here right now. We can see the smoke burning away from the building, which is a good thing, but we also see here too light for you to make out on camera, I'm sure, but it is just raining smoke, ash, and embers. Not smoke, but embers and ash. It is raining down on us right now. Again, difficult to make out, I'm sure, on the camera, but you can see the fire burning here near Civic Center Way. We're moving up and down. Communication is very bad. If you're trying to reach a loved one, I recommend texting or using a communication app like WhatsApp, even maybe Facebook Messenger, Instagram Messenger, to try to get through to them. Just a short while ago, my Verizon phone went down and went into SOS mode. We don't know if towers have been lost, but communication, as Brooke mentioned, is often spotty here in Malibu. But today it is extremely bad. Calls are dropping out if you can even make a call. So if you're trying to reach a loved one, text them. Use a messenger app like WhatsApp, and you may be able to get through faster. We're going to continue monitoring this. We're moving up and down Pacific Coast Highway, watching what the Franklin fire is doing. And of course, we're going to bring you the latest right here on Good Day LA. For now, I'm Gigi Graciette, live on Civic Center Way in Malibu. The fire directly behind the Malibu campus of the Santa Monica College, and also Communications Center for the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. We'll send it back to you.
Gigi Graciette, thank you. Some news from the city of Malibu. They're saying that the fire has spread south across PCH to Malibu Road near Webb Way and across PCH into the Malibu Pier area. Malibu Pier and other structures there are impacted. Structures are impacted on Malibu Knolls Road and Sweetwater Canyon. Earlier we heard that some fireboats had been requested to the Malibu Pier. So we do not know if the Malibu Pier itself is on fire, but we do know that that is an area of concern. Also an update from Pepperdine. They just posting that there are spot fires on campus at Pepperdine. They say that there is no life threatened. They do not believe that structures are threatened. Power is out remains out for much of Malibu. They're keeping the shelter-in-place protocol until at least daylight. So they want their students to remain in the library until at least daylight. We know some students have chosen to leave, but that's what's happening at Pepperdine.
All right, we're going to bring in Mario Ramirez now with more on what you can see. Mario, tell us where you are.
Hi, Brooke, Alex. We're just east of Pepperdine University on PCH and Sweetwater Canyon Drive. And I'm talking to Jim here. He's a resident who is in the evacuation zone. Jim, if you can join me here, thanks for talking to us. I know this is stressful for you. You've decided to stay close to your home for the time being because it looks like this area, the flames have died down, things have gotten under control, but things are still iffy here. So walk me through what this was like for you. Were you able to get some sleep? What happened?
No. First warning came about 11 o'clock, and it was just an alert. And then around 1, I think, there was an alert. There was a loud alarm that said, get out, evacuate now. They wanted us to have a plan in order to evacuate. And so I came around, my place filled up with smoke, and I came out on the deck and looked at the hill, and it was all on fire. It's really shocking.
What street do you live on?
I live right here on PCH on the beach side.
Okay, and at this area we're looking at here, we saw, me and you, at least one home that was touched by flames, a beautiful home up in the hills.
Yeah.
How would you describe this area, some of the streets here?
Well, it's a very nice area, and there are a lot of beautiful homes, very expensive homes. This house on top of the hill here, which is all dark now, was just totally lit up. And unfortunately, I'm afraid they might have done a lot of damage, if not total loss. They're horrible. I mean, it's a really expensive house. And then there are homes all scattered through the hills that you could just see burning. They're just random fires.
Yeah, so down here, you've been watching the activity. You've seen multiple homes.
Oh yeah. Yeah. All in the hills here between Cross Creek and this Sweetwater, I guess, Sierra Retreat. There are lots of homes that have been lost.
And what goes through your mind as this is happening? Have you been through a situation like this before?
Yeah, I was here a few years ago when the Pepperdine fire happened, and it was also very scary. You know, I don't know why we stay here, because it's tense.
I know it's got to be tough. And as for the firefighters here, we've been watching, I would say dozens of emergency crews. We can hear them now working their way here through PCH. There's a good reason why they have these streets closed. What do you say to the firefighting activity here?
Well, I think they've done a great job. I mean, like I said, the whole hill was on fire. It was just a panoramic red screen, coming out and looking. And in a matter of an hour and a half, they pretty much got everything under control. So they've done a great job. I mean, they really have done a great job. I didn't think they'd be able to get it under control, but they have.
Yeah, that's good to hear. So at this point, where do you go from here? You kind of just
where do I go?
Standing by?
To bed. I hope.
Yeah.
Unpack and, try to relax.
Yeah, not over yet, and we're still feeling these winds out here, so there is the possibility.
But I'm much more relaxed now than I was an hour and a half ago.
All right, good to hear.
Yeah,
Thank you, Jim.
Yeah, thank you.
Glad you were able to be safe in all of this. So that's what you're hearing this morning. Over 2,000 structures are in those mandatory evacuations. 1,200 that are in warnings, and as you can see, some residents sort of standing by and just taking a look at the activity as it gets closer to PCH, hopping over PCH in some areas as we keep feeling these wind gusts. I know they are expected to last through the day, through at least the morning, 40 to 50 mile per hour gusts. And let's show you some more of the flame here. You can see we've been watching this area for the last 20 minutes as we've gotten here to PCH and Sweetwater Canyon. These embers are sort of still flying around here in the area, and these gusts, we are still feeling them. We're going to keep an eye on things here, but the flames, at least in this area along PCH and Sweetwater Canyon, just east of Pepperdine University, seems to have calmed down just a bit, but that fire is still burning here in the city of Malibu.
Mario, first off, that interview you just did was really illuminating, because it was the first person we've heard to actually confirm that they have seen structures burn. That's something we've assumed based off of what's happening. We haven't actually talked to anybody who's seen it. So that's our first reporting of that. But it's our first time talking to you, and I'm wondering if you can walk us through what you have seen on your drive in. Did you see any structures burning? Talk to us about your experience getting there.
So getting here was extremely difficult. Obviously, there are lots of road closures, and this has been developing overnight. So a lot of them aren't, even known in the GPS systems. You're not going to see them on maps. You're going to run into them. And we tried to come in from the north, or at least I did, from the 101 and Malibu Canyon. And that was not a good route. We had to turn around, and those roads coming from that direction can be very narrow. So we came around PCH, and that was the best bet. But there are still road closures here along PCH. Unknown how long it'll be closed to the public. So you can imagine the congestion here this morning. But it is always amazing to see the activity here and all of these fire crews making their way in and out. And I want to go up to those flames up in the corner here. That's the bulk of the activity, the fire activity we can see here. And Jim, while I have you here, walk me through what that area is like, that corner up there that we're looking at.
I noticed there was a house earlier, and it was, it's dark, so you can't really make out exactly what's going on, but there is a house there. or there was a house there. And it was burning earlier, and then I think when we started talking, maybe, what, a half an hour ago, there was no fire there. And now it's started up again, just like you said, you know, the winds. When the winds change, it can all flare up again, which is exactly what it's doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And to give you an idea, again, we're on Sweetwater Canyon Drive, and some of the roads up there in the mountains, Sweetwater Canyon, Beckledge Terrace, Ridgemont Drive. That's really what we can see here from our vantage point, some of the streets that may be impacted up there in the mountains here in the city of Malibu. So lots of activity here on the streets. Again, this area seems to have died down, but we're expecting this to be really active throughout at least the morning. So we'll be standing by and sort of watching this, but we'll keep an eye on things. Send it back to you for now.
Right, Mario, thank you. Just something I was talking about earlier, there's just this sense of resilience from people who live in the area and who are somewhat used to these horror shows and are able to stay calm through such terror. This is terrifying.
It is terrifying. And it's, and Mario, you've been, okay, so we're going to talk about what we're seeing here, and we're looking at, you know, all this different destruction. We, at this point, really have no idea how many structures have burned. We know that at least 2,000 structures were in the zone that they were concerned about.
Right.
We don't have any indication that many structures have burned, but we really don't know. And until we get daylight, until we get a chance to get a better sense of what's happening, we won't know. The other big question that I have right now, would be interesting to know more about, is what's happening at the Malibu Pier, because it's clear that there's a lot of concern about that particular structure, and the thought the fire would be able to get all the way there, you know, which is as far as it can go, and you think of the Malibu Pier, there's some great restaurants there and places where families hang out, and you hope everybody there is okay.
You do. You hope everybody there is okay. Obviously, you were just saying, you know, we know that some 2,000 structures are at least somewhat in the danger zone here, and that means, you know, we're talking about thousands of people who are affected by this.
Thousands of people who were probably, like that guy, sleeping.
Right.
And then woken up in the middle of the night. You hope everybody was woken up. And then you also wonder about some people refuse to leave in these situations and decide to stay and decide to fight the fire. And sometimes that works, and they're able to help save their homes. And we have seen in fire after fire, big fire after fire, sometimes the people decide to stay and fight the fire. Sometimes they die.
Right, it's nothing to bet on at all. But, you know, I do understand that it's a hard decision for many people to make. That's why it was nice that we had Jonathan Torres from LA County Fire, you know, on the phone, just stressing the importance of following these orders, these mandatory orders that come in, and really thinking deeply about the warnings.
Right. And you were in Malibu, right, if I remember correctly, that the day that Camarillo fire happened, it started with a fire in Malibu that morning.
It did, and, you know, when we got there, you know, we can still see flames, we can see the fire response, and we can see, you know, what the crews are trying to battle as we are kind of like up the hill, essentially, right across the street from Pepperdine. And once things calmed down a bit, we were able to go deep, kind of down into the neighborhood a little bit more, and it was a horror show. Just looking at the houses, these beautiful beachside homes that will never look the same again.
Right. And this is a whole lot worse this morning.
It was nothing like this.
Right.
Yeah.
And the conditions today are worse, and the conditions today are not over too. I mean, it seems like things are getting a little better in Malibu. This is now a live picture, but that's still pretty bad. And the other challenge, Brooke, is embers. So when you have 40, 50 mile an hour winds, that could take any of these flames, you know, a mile or so down the road and hit another home or a building or a church or whatever. And then all of a sudden you have another fire, and there just aren't enough people and not enough water to put all this out at the same time. I mean, you would need basically a rainstorm to come through, which is not happening anytime soon because there's just so much fire happening right now.
No, that's the truth. When it comes to emergencies like this, it's never just what you can see. Of course, there's also what you can't see, and then what could happen just so quickly, as we've seen just in the hours since these calls started coming in, how rapidly this fire grew, the dangers of these winds.
Mm-hmm. And we continue to watch them burning now. And you think of Malibu in this particular area, which is home to some of the most desirable real estate in the country, homes, townhomes, apartments, research facilities that are there. There's world-class shopping and restaurants, all of that right in this particular vicinity. Some of the more famous locations, and not only in Southern California, but around the world. It's a place Miley Cyrus thinks about Malibu. So many people know Malibu, and that's the picture of almost perfection. And now it is going to be scarred by this.
Another scar, unfortunately.
Yep.
This is just one.
Yep. And Sumata Khan, as we bring our meteorologist back into the conversation, this isn't the only area that should be concerned today.
Yes,
right?
Unfortunately, Alex, we have been advertising since yesterday and even since last week that there was the potential for stronger Santa Ana winds to make its way across Southern California early this week, and unfortunately we are seeing it unfold before our eyes. Malibu area, of course, under red flag conditions, not only dealing with strong winds, 20 to 30 miles an hour. These are sustained potentially, and already at Pepperdine, the observation site there was clocking in at 50 miles an hour. And unfortunately, to your point, Malibu is not the only location undergoing these red flag conditions. We're talking about locations across the Santa Clarita Valley, the San Fernando Valley. The Inland Empire communities will be affected by these really strong winds and strong gusts. If you've got plans to head along our Grapevine through the Cajon Pass along the 15 stretch, through the San Gorgonio Pass, we're looking at wind speeds, gusts, still that range of 50 to 60 miles an hour. So very dangerous, critical conditions, extreme fire danger. With the single spark, it could lead to widespread devastation as we are seeing things unfold across Malibu. A reminder to heed the warnings of the local authorities, as Alex and Brooke have been reporting that locations across Malibu, the fire jumped across PCH, and we're going to continue to keep tabs on how the pier is doing and surrounding locations, but the winds going to be a real factor. And as we've talked time and time ago, yes, as we talked about time and time again, fires create their own weather, strong erratic winds, and those embers that can fly miles down the road and could ignite new fires. Again, locations across SoCal under red flag conditions, extreme fire weather. Now we're going to go ahead and bring in Gigi. If you can tell us, Gigi, what are you seeing right now?
There is so much happening out here. It is changing by the minute. We start off with breaking news. Units are being requested right now on Cross Creek Road in Mariposa de Oro for structure protection because the fire is moving in that area. Meanwhile, we're on Civic Center. This is right behind the Malibu campus of the Santa Monica College. LA County Sheriff's Department also has a communications tower here. And this is where the fire has been burning directly behind the building. There are plenty of firefighters staged here for structure protection. But if you go up and down PCH in this stretch, we're talking about the stretch in front of the Malibu Beach Inn, also right behind Malibu Plaza on the other side of the road, the entire hillside, you can see spot fires. And we just heard firefighters talking to each other about the challenge they're facing with the spot fires, and that the Santa Ana winds are not that bad right now, but they are erratic. We've watched right here. You can see the smoke, and this stretch of Malibu is burning towards the north. On the other side of the hill, on Piuma, you have a very large contingency of firefighters staged. They are holding Piuma Road. They don't want the fire to spread. back into that area, so they're staged on the other side of what you see burning here, just to protect the structures and that area over there. There are multiple spot fires as the fire continues to spot ahead of each other. Fires can actually spot a mile or more ahead of itself during windy conditions, and that is one of the biggest challenges that firefighters face during Santa Ana wind conditions. And they have plenty of challenges. They have the topography, which is right now driving this fire. We see the smoke moving towards the north. Earlier, it was moving towards us, towards the south. At points, it was moving in both directions at the same time. One firefighter describing the wind as squirrely. Not a technical term, not an official term, obviously, but that gives you an idea of the challenges that firefighters are facing. Another challenge, rocky roads. Public Works has just been called to Malibu Canyon to clear rocks from the roadway so that fire engines, fire trucks can get by. They're facing a challenge there. Difficulty in getting by because there are rocks in the roadway, so they requested Public Works right away to come and help them clear the road so they can get through here. Pacific Coast Highway is shut down. If you work in this area, if you live in this area, most likely you know what's going on. You've either evacuated or are under an evacuation warning and are ready to go. But if you work in this area, you will not be working today. It is shut down for all the fire trucks. So please don't come to the area. Call your boss, call your manager, and tell them and get directions from them, because we don't want to see additional cars here as firefighting units from all over Los Angeles and Ventura County flock here to help the firefighters with the Franklin fire, which has now grown to well over 1,000 acres. Again, if you're just joining us live on Good Day LA, we are covering the Franklin fire. This was a big concern yesterday as firefighters warned us about that red flag warning, about those Santa Ana winds moving in. The National Weather Service telling us just yesterday we were going to see conditions similar to what we saw in Ventura County that first week of November, when we lost so many homes, dozens of houses in the Camarillo area. Somas was hit hard. Already this morning, there's been a vegetation fire in Fillmore. They moved quickly on that one, got it under control. But this was the big concern, that the winds, if a fire were to start, would quickly fan that fire and cause it to spread very quickly. Very low humidity, very, very dry conditions. The brush very dry here in Malibu, and that is what you see burning. I'm Gigi Graciette. We are live again at the Malibu campus of the Santa Monica College here in Malibu as the fire continues to burn in the hills above Pacific Coast Highway. We'll send it back to you.
All right, Gigi, thank you. We've got some latest information in from the city of Malibu. I just want to update you here on that. Let's see here. So the city of Malibu right now reporting the fire has spread south over PCH, threatening structures by Malibu Pier, Malibu Road, Malibu Knolls, and Sweetwater Mesa. Again, this is the latest information coming in from the city of Malibu here. This fire, again, the report started coming in around 11 p.m. last night. So this has been going on now for 5 hours. We've been on air for you, giving you the latest information since then. This is a breaking story. There are mandatory evacuations. There are evacuation warnings. There were, shelter-in-place orders. We do know we haven't been able to get as good of a look right now. Obviously, it's the middle of the night, and you can see what we're seeing in many areas. And, this is one of the areas that isn't as horrifying as it can get, as it has been overnight as we've been dealing with this. But we haven't been able to get a good look at many structures, but we do know at least 2,000 structures are threatened by this. Thousands of people are affected by this. Thousands of people live in this area. Thousands of people actually coming under within the zone of these mandatory evacuation orders. I want to go back out to Mario Ramirez now live with more. Mario.
Hi, we are along PCH and Sweetwater Canyon Drive, and you're looking at active flames here just up in the hillside. And I have Walter Thorpe. He's a resident who lives on Beckledge Terrace, and we've been talking about what you've been going through, what we're watching there up on the hill. You understand what street that is?
That's Ridgemont. That's a neighbor that I actually evacuated at about, call it 11:30, 11:45. I've got her stationed right here where I can keep an eye on her. Yeah, she's right over here. We think that we lost her home. My house is about 1,500 yards just the other side of the hill. I don't know what the status is of that or the other homes that are up there, but I know for sure at least one structure where you're panning right now is more than likely gone. I was given kind of directions and lay of the land with the fire engines, hoping that they'll understand, because they're not from the area. Understanding where to go, where not to go, because some of the streets are quite narrow.
Yeah. So that's interesting. It's even a challenge for the fire crews to make their way up into these areas.
For sure, particularly when they're not familiar with the area. You know, we have some great firefighters that are here, and they're all amazing people. Oh gosh, that's really catching on right now. But yeah, so I spent about 5 minutes with a couple fire engines and one of the captains giving direction, going up the hill and where not to go.
And the woman that you said you helped evacuate from that home up there,
right.
she was okay?
Yeah, she's okay. I mean, she's numb to it all, right? It's, you know, unfortunately, this side of Malibu in roughly 2007-8 had a pretty crazy fire. We weren't affected in the Woolsey fire, which was further west, but a lot of our friends lost homes there. We also have friends over here in Sarah Retreat, which I'm gravely concerned about, I just don't know what transpired with their homes either. It's surreal. It's very surreal.
Yeah. Now, you were saying these fire trucks that we're seeing didn't show up until a few hours after the fire broke.
It had to have been close to a couple hours. I know they were trying to battle some issues further west over here and more in Sarah Retreat. The flames coming off the north side over here, or this side over here, were. I mean, I took pictures of it just because I was in awe, the power of the fire and how quickly it moved. I know they were trying to keep it from going that way, and we had. Oh, see, this is something. Yeah, this is the house.
Just watching that flare up right now in the last few seconds. That shows you how quickly things can change.
That's oh boy. So we saw the flames coming in pretty quickly. We had for a moment about a good 45 minutes to an hour where the wind was going away from us and going toward, unfortunately, Sarah Retreat, and then it shifted and came back our way toward the east side, and then this is now you can see more. This is glowing over here now, which tells me that's now on fire.
You've been here 19 years.
Correct.
What's it like this morning over the past almost 2 decades that you've been here?
This is the most challenging by far. I mean, you've got some great men and women that are up there, and I give my all to them. But this one's pretty dang tough. I don't know what, I'm trying to digest this here as I'm looking at my home possibly gone. But it's tough. I mean, what am I going to do? I've got my pets and my kids are fine. They're grown and out in different states, but, everybody's safe. I know everybody's safe in our community. I evacuated 2 people myself. And, in fact, one of our neighbors, where his street, which we were just talking a minute ago, which was Ridgemont, he had to crevasse down this hill because the entire street, this is Sweetwater Canyon, was on fire, and he couldn't evacuate with his car, so he had to crevasse down the hill, and he has a young baby and his wife, but they evacuated and they're fine. So as far as I know, everybody's safe in the community. It's just seeing what happens with these homes.
Thanks so much for talking to us, Walter. Yeah, so we'll stay out here and talk to some of these residents that may be under evacuation warnings for now. We'll go ahead and send it back to you.
So you see it now. It's coming close.
Pretty dang tough, Mario. That is, to say the least. This community sure is. All right, good morning. I'm Brooke Thomas. Welcome to Good Day LA at 4 o'clock. We, of course, begin with the breaking news in Malibu. That's where we have been just out of control wildfires spreading in the hillsides near Pepperdine University, where students are now under shelter-in-place orders. We're actually going to head out to Gigi Graciette. We're going to head out to Gigi Graciette in a bit. Obviously, this is a fast-moving situation. This is something that's been going on since just after or around 11 p.m. last night. I wonder if can we bring in Mario Ramirez? He's also live on the scene. Mario, there's so many things I've wanted to ask you throughout the morning as you've been able to talk to members of the community out there. But I wanted to know from you, can you talk a little bit about what it was like driving in, specifically, you know, how soon before you even got to the scene that you were able to see this and maybe even smell this?
Well, I will say that it definitely took maybe 3 times as long driving in. We first tried to come in from the 101 and Malibu Canyon from the north of this. That was not a good route, so we headed back down the 101 and the 405 to PCH, which is where we got some luck. But you're looking at a water drop, or at least we were looking at a water drop here at a home on Ridgecrest in Malibu, just above where we are here along PCH and Sweetwater Canyon. And we've counted and spoke with residents who say at least 2 homes have been damaged here by the flames. Jim, hey, we're live again. I'm just wondering, we're standing by and you've kind of been watching this activity. If you could join me here, what do you think of the recent progress that's been made here in just the last hour?
Well, I think overall they've made a lot of progress. They've knocked it down from, really roaring flames and the whole hillside on fire to what looks is pretty quiet now.
And how would you describe this area? I know we're along PCH here, the hillsides up above us.
How would I describe it?
Yeah, I know some of the streets, Ridgecrest, you said Sarah Terrace?
Sarah Retreat.
Sarah Retreat.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. You know, when it's not burning, it's an incredible place. It's very beautiful.
Multi-million-dollar homes up there, obviously.
Yeah, lots of money. And, you know, families have been there for a long time, so I hate to see them lose their homes. It's really sad.
Now, walk me through your situation. You got the alert when? Were you able to sleep at all?
Around 11 o'clock, and by 1, I got an evacuation notice, and it was an alarm that went off, and they just said, get out.
Were you able to grab what you could? What was
I started packing bags quickly. I didn't have a go bag ready. Not smart. But luckily, I packed them, I put them outside, and then I came out, and it was all on fire. This whole hillside was on fire. And then I just kind of watched to see what would happen, and it's quieted down quite a bit. I mean, it's night and day. I mean, they've really done a great job.
All right, thanks for talking to us, Jim. So that's the latest here along PCH and Sweetwater Canyon. We'll go ahead and send it back to you for now.
All right, Mario, thank you. We now have a Pepperdine student, actually, Gabby Delgado. Obviously, Gabby, we want to bring you here in this conversation. Talk to me a little bit about your experience since, again, around 11 o'clock last night.
Yeah, so, I mean, I've been in the library for probably the past 3.5, 4 hours. And it's honestly been a really stressful situation. I mean, seeing flames like right where I'm used to like looking outside and studying and seeing like green mountain sides and seeing that on fire is definitely crazy. But it is nice to know that like now when I look out the window, I see less fire.
No, that's good. How do you feel right now? Because this will shake you up.
I mean, I'm so tired. It's been a really long night and a very stressful night, and along with, you know, finals that we have going on at the same time. It's been very stressful and very tiring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you thought your tests were the biggest thing you were going to be dealing with this week. What was the first notification that you got that something was going on?
It was probably around 11:30 or 12. We got a notice that there was a fire, but that the university was not under threat of anything. But that changed quickly when I came to the library and I saw the flames getting very, very close to campus.
I imagine you were so scared. Are you from the area? Have you ever dealt with anything like this before?
I'm from Central California, okay. The Central Valley, so 3 hours north. So this isn't something that I'm used to.
Absolutely. And so, you know, I think sometimes it's hard. We were talking to someone with LA County Fire this morning about just trying to stress, you know, getting people to heed these warnings, these orders, things like that. It is hard, regardless of your, you know, ownership, just to leave your home. And you kind of have to gauge whether you believe it or not. But of course, we want everybody to believe this, to understand this, to heed these warnings. How quickly were you able to snap into it and decide, okay, what do they say we need to do? Let me get to the library.
Pretty much immediately. I was in my room when the power went out, and I knew it meant a fire. And I called my friends. I called my academic advisor asking what I should do. I was talking to different RAs, and I immediately packed a go bag. And I was really anxious, so I just came down to the library because I knew that was my shelter-in-place area. And I was here before the shelter-in-place was issued.
Gabby Salgado, I believe I called you Gabby Delgado earlier. Sorry about that, Gabby. You mentioned that, you called your friends, and were you all able to get there together? What's the vibe in the room? You all are so young. This is a scary situation.
I mean, it was a very stressful situation. My roommate, she's an RA, so she stayed back a little bit longer to keep tabs on her residents. And then I had a friend, one of the friends that I did check up on, and went to her dorm room. She ended up leaving campus and going to her friend's apartment off campus. And then I have a friend that lives off campus as well. So I called him asking if he was okay because he lives through the canyon. Just making sure, he had power and if he saw anything. So I kind of came here alone, and then I found people eventually as I was here.
Of course, we hope you all are watching the news at all times, but I know what it's like, to be a college student finals week and how you kind of unplug so that you can focus and try and get on with your life. So were you familiar with any warnings, any dangers, that were going on, at least since yesterday, that, unfortunately, this is something that worst case scenario could happen?
I mean, it was definitely something that I had on the radar. I mean, just being a journalism student is something that I stay on top of just because I need to.
Right.
But I think the average student probably wasn't very on top or really had that on the top of their minds. But when I was walking outside to get dinner, and I saw, I felt how strong the winds were. And I was like, this is dangerous.
I almost feel like I'm talking to a friend on FaceTime, Gabby, but can you show us the room a little bit there? I want to see, your surroundings if possible.
So this is the library. There's a lot of students that are just relaxing right now. Most of these students are just relaxing. De-stressing because of findings.
But everyone's able to be calm, and everyone okay? Everyone able to talk to their parents, their loved ones, and check in? Because cell service also, that's an issue.
Cell service was a huge issue. I was trying to get a hold of multiple people, and my calls are just not going through, which is really stressful because I didn't know what I didn't know what to do. I really felt like I needed to be in contact with those people, and when I wasn't able to get into contact with them, it was very stressful.
Gabby, it's Sandra Endo here jumping in with you this morning. Just a quick question, because Pepperdine was threatened by the Broad Fire just recently, about a month or so ago. Were you in a similar situation in that fire? What were school officials saying in preparing for another kind of situation like that this time around?
I mean, it was definitely a different situation because it was a much smaller fire, and the winds were going away from campus. So campus at no moment felt like it was threatened by the fire. I mean, I did go down closer to the end of campus during the Broad Fire to get a closer look, and it was very scary to see, but it's not comparable. The Broad Fire and the Franklin Fire are not comparable. They're completely different experiences.
Yeah, definitely different experiences, different time of year, because I see all those students studying for finals, as you mentioned. But clearly, is there an open line of communication with school officials there? What are they saying in terms of what's next? Have they been giving you instruction?
Yeah, so they told us that we are still under shelter-in-place orders, and those orders are most likely will most likely be in place until daylight.
Gabby, thank you so much for being with us this morning, calling in this morning. We really appreciate it. It's nice to be able to get a look at what you're dealing with. And also, it is so nice to hear that you are calm, that you are safe, that your friends, your community is okay. And, I hope things just get better as the day goes on. We want to probably check back in with you later on throughout the morning, if that's okay.
Yeah, that sounds great.
All right, we appreciate you. Right now, someone else we greatly appreciate, Samadi. It is always nice that people here in this community, they really listen to their meteorologists, and thank goodness, because we knew this was possible. It has just still been a wonder at how rapidly this fire really just exploded in size. Yeah,
and unfortunately, Brooke, good morning, Sandra, and to everyone out there. And Gabby, thank you so much for your input and being brave and telling us what's going on where you are. But yes, we have been trying to warn folks since since even last week, where there was the potential for stronger Santa Ana winds. And when you couple strong winds with really dry conditions, the relative humidity down to a range of 5 to 15%, it makes for explosive fire weather. Hence, the red flag warning in place, continues to be in place through at least tomorrow morning for some areas. And taking a look at our Franklin fire conditions right now at some of the local observation sites, we're looking at winds a range of 12 to 17 miles an hour, but there is that potential, and we have already seen it come into fruition. Wind speeds of 20 to 30 miles an hour, and gusts earlier this morning reached up to 50 miles an hour. So current gusts right now, a little bit of improvement from what was going on just a couple hours ago. As I mentioned, 14 to 23 miles an hour. Temperature ranges are in the upper 60s near the fire zone. Humidity, as I mentioned, single digits continue to be a possibility all the way through today. Current acreage, 1,822. As our colleagues reported earlier this morning, Alex and Marla and Adam, they were reported the fire when it just began right around 11 p.m. last night, and it started off with just, again, a handful of acres. It rapidly spread due to the dry vegetation that fueled the fire, and then you couple that with the really strong winds, and it just took off. Explosive fire behavior and the red flag conditions do continue, again, all the way into at least tomorrow morning for some locations. Containment 0%, but I know our local fire departments, LA County Fire, Ventura County Fire, and we're getting word that strike teams from Orange County are also taking part in trying to battle the flames. And if you live in the fire zone locations, make sure you heed those warnings. If the fire officials tell you to evacuate, make sure you do so. And a constant reminder, especially when we're dealing with fire season, we are in the thick of Santa Ana season, that you have your go bag. Get ready, get set, and go in the event that you have to evacuate. And the areas shaded in the magenta there, those are the locations impacted by the red flag conditions. It's not just the Santa Monica Mountains and across Ventura County. You look at how widespread the fire potential is. Red flag warnings, again, remain in place through at least Wednesday evening, where wind speeds continue to be a range of 20 to 30 miles per hour. Gusts, the possibility of 35 to 60 miles an hour. And there are some locations where isolated gusts can reach up to 70, and low humidity, again, coupled with those strong winds, continues to bring fire concerns, critical fire concerns across Southern California. And we'll continue to watch, again, our friends and our family and our viewers in the Malibu Franklin fire zone. Back to you two.
All right, Samantha, thank you. We do have some information on shelters you should know about. Okay, so I want to tell you about a shelter set up at Palisades Recreation Center. That's at 851 Alma Real Drive in Pacific Palisades. There are also animal shelters set up. That's really important, too, especially shelters for large animals. People need to know about that. But let me tell you about this animal shelter set up at Agora Animal Care Center. That's in Agora Hills, and Pierce College in Woodland Hills.
And Brooke, I heard you asking Mario earlier, you know, how widespread is this? When can you, what was it like?
It's always surprising how quickly you can start to sense something, you know, going on far before you're close to it.
Yes, I was near LAX and I could smell the heavy smoke already. And then driving up to our station here on the west side, you could see that Malibu was aglow.
That's the part. You can't often see it as far away as you're able to see this. This has been just a sight to see.
Yeah, it's such a scary situation. Let's go live out to Mario right now to give us the very latest on the situation there. But clearly, the widespread effect of this already being felt all throughout the area. Mario.
Yes, Sandra, Brooke, good morning. We are in an area where we've seen 2 homes that have burned here by the Franklin fire. This all started on Malibu Canyon Road and PCH. We know several strike teams from multiple agencies are up in the hillsides here. Law enforcement have been helping with the evacuations. And we talked to some residents out here in these road closures under evacuations. Over 2,000 structures are in mandatory evacuations right now, 1,200 under warnings. And again, we saw 2 homes here up in the hillside burn this morning. One of them, we can tell you, was a multi-million-dollar home on let's see, Ridgemont Drive that burned, and we saw a few water drops here in the last 45 minutes or so. So this is over 1,500 acres right now. 300 firefighters and 6 helicopters have responded. They're using all resources available here. No injuries have been reported yet, but this is an aggressive, active firefight on the ground and in the area. LA County Fire has been making their way through this stretch of PCH. Dozens of emergency vehicles. Pepperdine University issuing a shelter in place on campus. And let's talk more about those evacuations east of Malibu Canyon Road, south of Payuma Road, Sarah, Retreat, and Pacific Coast Highway, again between Topanga Canyon Boulevard and Coral Canyon Road. Unknown how long PCH will be closed to the public, but this will obviously create a traffic jam and major congestion in the area here in the city of Malibu throughout the morning. So we talked a little earlier to a resident, Walter Thorpe, on Beckledge Terrace. He says he evacuated 2 of his neighbors, rushed them down here to PCH where they were waiting in their car a little earlier. We don't see them here right now, and some of these fire trucks are starting to move to a different area, so that gives us the idea that maybe the fire is moving to another location, and these flames are dying down here in this area near PCH and Sweetwater Canyon. But we're still feeling those winds. We still see some of those embers blowing around here in Malibu near the coastline. We're going to keep an eye on things, and that is the very latest here in Malibu. I'm Mario Ramirez. We'll go ahead and send it back to you in the studio now.
All right, Mario. Thank you.
It's just so devastating to watch this scene right here live with the mountain aglow on Malibu, and knowing that just a month ago, you know, this area was struck by the Broad Fire, this community definitely suffering all throughout the years. So many fires that we've covered throughout the area and community of Malibu. This is certainly something they've lived with for quite some time, as you heard a lot of residents there saying, you know, they know that when there's going to be high winds and dry conditions, they're in for trouble perhaps, but clearly nothing comes to mind when, you know, it actually happens, right? You could be ready, or you think you're ready, but when it actually does, it's still devastating nonetheless. So we're seeing these live images right now of the Franklin fire, which, as Brooke and our team has been mentioning, it broke out at around 10:50 last night.
No, yeah, should we get a little update on that? Just catch you up here. It's burned at least 1,800 acres so far, according to CAL FIRE. Again, we've just been talking about how rapidly this has exploded. This came in as somewhat of a small brush fire, and when I got in early this morning overnight, you know, we were talking about some 800 acres. This has exploded to at least 1,800 acres. Again, that's according to CAL FIRE. Evacuations have been ordered east of Malibu Canyon Road, south of Payuma Road, as well as the Sarah Retreat area. Evacuations are also ordered from Tunia Canyon to Puerco Canyon. And students at Pepperdine University, they are under shelter-in-place orders. We just talked to a Pepperdine student, actually a journalism student, Gabby Salgado. They're sheltering in place in the library as ordered. Nearby roads also impacted. That's something you need to know about. PCH is closed from Las Flores to Coral Canyon. Las Virgen is closed from Mulholland to PCH. Obviously, if you don't have to be in this area, if you are not a part of an emergency response crew, you need to stay away from this area. If you are a part of it, if you are affected by a mandatory evacuation order, these are thousands of people affected somewhat in that mandatory evacuation order. You need to be out of there. Again, thousands more people under evacuation warnings. Sandra, we again haven't been able to get a good look at any structures damaged in this, but we know some 2,000 are in this direct area affected by what we're seeing.
Yeah, definitely threatened, and that's certainly something that firefighters are trying to save and salvage, obviously, life and property at this point, but they are having a tough time because of the winds and the poor visibility, as well as the power outages right there. So there's difficult challenges ahead for fire crews trying to battle this blaze. But as you heard Mario say, he did confirm that at least 2 structures have been burned or damaged, one of them a multi-million-dollar home in the community of Malibu. So certainly really devastating news to hear, especially around the holidays when people are thinking about coming together, you know, spreading some cheer, and then having to deal with this. But we are going to stay on top of this. And also, as Mario was saying, you know, the winds and the flames kind of shift from time to time, because as we know, fires have a personality of their own. They create a weather system of their own as well. And depending on the winds, it definitely does shift. So sometimes you can think that you're in a community that may be saved or salvaged from all of this because the winds have shifted and the flames aren't in your area anymore and you don't see that glow. But definitely any moment, those winds can turn and definitely create a different storyline here. But you see from our images right there, I think there's an aerial asset flying above those flames along that fire ridge, but clearly we could use more help, right? Mother Nature needing to calm down in terms of the wind situation right now, and hopefully as daylight comes up, it'll be easier for firefighters to assess the area and how widespread this has been.
It's also, I want to go back to, we've been talking about, you know, how close this was to Pepperdine and how the students are dealing with either evacuation orders or shelter-in-place orders. Just the latest from the university is that they understand that the worst of the fire, of course, and we're talking to Gabby. If you are just joining us, we actually were able to check in on video with a student, Gabby Delgado, a student who was sheltering in place in the library, and she was just able, from her perspective, to see the changes from, you know, maybe not so bad to an absolute horror show to things seem like they're getting better from what she can see. And the university saying that they believe the worst of the fire has pushed past Pepperdine, but they want everyone on campus to know that there are smaller spot fires on campus that are not threatening life or structures. And of course, fire resources remain on campus. They're trying to address these spot fires as they occur. Additionally, power still out for many people in Malibu. Cell service is spotty, to say the least. And, you know, they want people to, even if you see changes when it comes to, you know, what's going on around you, to still heed those warnings, those orders. They want you to still shelter in place until at least daylight. We'll keep you updated on what's going on there.
Let's head over to Samada now to get a check on the forecast and if these winds are going to shift or change or what the situation's like.
Yeah, unfortunately, these winds will continue to be very strong. The strong stand is we're in the thick of it. We've got wind speeds earlier this morning where one of our observation sites near the Pepperdine University area clocked in at 50 miles an hour, and that continued again to drive these ferocious flames. We have currently at least gusts a little improvement, and that's part of the shift. Gusts about 14 to 23 miles an hour, and sustained winds still a range of 12 to 17 miles an hour. We're still dealing with incredibly dry conditions, as that is what happens with Santa Ana winds. Those descending winds from the upper levels of the atmosphere runs and crosses through canyon passes, and as it does so, it creates very dry conditions, and the foliage and the vegetation responds. Humidity down to 6 to 12%, as low as 5% is what we were possibly going to be dealing with. Acreage, as you both had mentioned, right around 1,822 acres currently, according to CAL FIRE, and 0% containment. And we can tell you all the local fire agencies are working really hard to try to get this fire under control. In terms of wind conditions, we've got red flag warnings currently in place for that region, and that will stay in place at least through tomorrow evening in some spots. All the areas you can see here highlighted in the magenta being impacted by winds and very low humidity. And it's not just the fire zone in the Malibu area, but it is widespread, the potential for explosive fire growth when you couple winds and dry conditions. Wind speeds could still range of 20 to 30 miles an hour, with gusts 35 to 60 plus is still possible, and that remains possible not just through this morning but through the afternoon hours, and it won't be until at least later this evening that we'll slowly start to notice the conditions subside a little bit. But this also impacts areas along the Grapevine through the 5 corridor. A lot of big trucks will travel through that route, and also the Cajon Pass through the San Gorgonio Pass as you're heading into the Coachella Valley, and of course downwind through the Santa Ana Mountains. And this is again widespread. Taking a look at our futurecast, just getting an idea how strong and how long we're going to be dealing with these strong winds. The contour highlighted locations are the most vulnerable areas with this round of Santa Anas, and that does apply to the Santa Monica Mountains, out towards Ventura County Mountains, downwind through the foothill communities, the San Gabriel Mountains as well, impacting the San Bernardino, Riverside County Mountains, and the Santa Ana Mountains, as you can see here. I'm going to go ahead and animate this out. Fast forward to this afternoon. We're still dealing with the same conditions, those very same vulnerable vulnerable areas. Meanwhile, there's the wind-protected locations of the basin where they're not being impacted as much by these really strong gusts. Into this evening, 6 p.m., you can see the intensity of the colors are diminished just slightly, which is a good indication that winds are also slowly going to diminish, but they're still strong enough where it will continue to elevate our fire concerns. Overnight into Wednesday, finally we get a little bit of a break from the winds, and into tomorrow afternoon is when we'll really notice that break in the winds that will help the firefighters. Meantime, look at the relative humidity in and around the fire zone where the strongest winds are. We're looking at 8 to 11%. Meanwhile, locations across downtown LA into Pasadena, higher relative humidity levels. So there's a little bit more moisture. So we're still in the fire danger zone through at least early tomorrow morning, and it is widespread, as I pointed out. There's still that potential of down trees, power lines that could lead to public safety power shutoffs. So please be mindful of that if you're joining us in locations outside of the fire area. And as I mentioned before, those really strong crosswinds are going to impact your commute in those very vulnerable locations. All eyes right now, of course, in the fire zone area, and we continue to watch those winds. We're still in the thick of it, unfortunately. Back to you, too.
You truly are. Samada, Pepperdine University, we've been talking about Pepperdine a lot this morning. They have activated, again, their shelter-in-place protocol. Students at the Malibu campus, you have been directed to shelter in place. They want you to stick with that protocol. They want you to shelter in place in the Tyler Campus Center or the Payson Library. We spoke to a student inside.
Yeah, so as you can see behind me, we have the flames. I'm right by the entrance of the library. So this is the window that you see when you walk in on the second floor. These flames are getting really, really close, as you can see, right around here. And then right in front of me, there's also quite a few students. So if you look over here, there's a lot of students that are standing around the window, watching the fire, getting video, because it is very...
The LASD Lost Hills Station, okay? Just an update, the latest information we have for you from them on this Franklin fire. Again, the fire has spread to 1,822 acres. 4 evacuation zones are still under a mandatory evacuation order. If you're unfamiliar with your zone, if you are unfamiliar whether, one of these is your zone, you can go to lacounty.gov/emergency. Quickly let you know the latest information on, whether you need to leave. It's tough because, we hope everyone has had there's information, as soon as possible. But again, this did start overnight while most people were sleeping.
Right, and that's exactly the case because fire officials, city officials did warn of this red flag warning, as Samada's been talking about. They were prepared for these heavy winds and the dry conditions. So this certainly they thought was a possibility. Unfortunately, a possibility that actually became a reality. Let's go back out live to Mario right now, who could tell us what it's like on the ground there. Mario.
Yeah, some of the flames have started to weaken, but we're still getting those embers and ash here along PCH at Sweetwater Canyon Drive. And take a look here. You can see that huge cloud of smoke, black smoke. So that just indicates that something is burning, maybe part of a structure there. But when you see that white smoke, that means that they've started to get a handle on that patch of flame. So this all started near PCH and Malibu Canyon Road late last night. We can tell you that we've been watching the firefight activity here with dozens of emergency crews making their way through PCH. Pepperdine University did issue a shelter in place on campus, and we have evacuations east of Malibu Canyon in the Sarah Retreat area. Pacific Coast Highway between Topanga Canyon Boulevard and Coral Canyon Road is closed to traffic, and it's not known exactly how long that closure will be in place. So you can imagine what it will do to the morning commute here through the Pepperdine University area. No injuries yet to report, so that's the good news here. Several strike teams from multiple agencies are working through the hillsides here. Over 2,000 structures in mandatory evacuations, 1,200 under warnings, and 300 firefighters at last check with 6 water dropping helicopters have responded, and we've been watching some of those water drops. Again, this is an aggressive, active firefight on the ground and in the air with LA County Fire leading that effort. Now, Jim is joining me now. You're a resident who has not evacuated. You've been watching the activity here getting closer and closer to your home, but you say the progress here is somewhat relieving, somewhat comforting.
I think they've done a really great job of getting it under control. From where it was at 1 o'clock, which was just pretty much engulfed the whole hillside, and many, many houses were on fire. And an hour and a half later, and they had it pretty much completely under control. We still have flare-ups, and there's a couple of houses that keep flaring up again. You think they're under control, and they're not. And they come back and drop more water on them, which is great. But it's, yeah.
Now, Jim, how long have you lived here?
I've had 3 places here, and I think about 25 years. Yeah.
And you'd say this is the biggest fire that you have to deal with?
Well, it's the most recent, obviously, and they're always scary when they're happening. Yeah.
We talked to some residents earlier who said, unfortunately, they're used to it. They're sort of numb to it. What do you think about that?
I think that I think that's true. And as I said, Southern California is full of a lot of natural disasters, and with earthquakes and mudslides, and the fires in Malibu are just horrible. So they can get really scary. The wind's 70 miles an hour on fire coming over the canyon, and you go to bed and everything's fine. You wake up and neighborhoods are gone.
Yeah, we've been watching some of these homes here. One on Ridgemont Drive that burned. We talked to a resident on Beckledge Terrace who didn't know if his home was still standing. He helped some of his neighbors evacuate. And we did see another home up in the hills here. It wasn't clear what street it was on, but we did see another home burning. So at our count, 2 homes that have been burned by the Franklin fire, and thousands more that are under mandatory evacuation orders as this continues. We're going to keep an eye on the activity here, and we'll be following the Franklin fire for now. That's the latest here along PCH and Sweetwater Canyon Drive. I'm Mario Ramirez. We'll send it back to you.
Yeah, thank you, Mario. As we were just been talking about people who are dealing with this and their homes, I just want to, because we're talking about Malibu, right? And obviously, many homes, many people have very, very large animals. People, it's a wonder if they were able to get all of their horses to safety. And so I just want to remind you that there is a shelter for large animals at Pierce College, okay? That's in Woodland Hills. Right now, I think we're going to actually be able to go out to Gigi to talk a little bit about what you can see, Gigi.
Well, what we're seeing right now is that wind starting to pick up. You can tell by my hair. We're on PCH. This is Civic Center Way, and you can see those palm trees are on fire. That is sort of an empty field area. There you see more resources being deployed. They are staged throughout Malibu. Hundreds and hundreds of firefighters already on high alert because of the Santa Ana winds. And unfortunately, Mario's been talking about it. He interviewed that person who said that he knew that homes had been lost, and we just witnessed for ourselves up in the hills on Sarah a house burning. It appears to be a total loss. We have some video for you. The transmission, the connection up there in the hills is very spotty. A lot of the phone towers appear to be down. Verizon is almost always on SOS mode now. That's what we're seeing here. But this house on Sarah burning, and this is just one of many structures that we hear are now well involved. Firefighters rushing from one area to another, and that is because the fire continues to spot ahead of itself because of these Santa Ana winds that are fanning these flames. There's plenty, excuse me, it's very smoky here. There's plenty of dry brush to fuel it. But the biggest challenge for firefighters right now is the wind and the fire spotting ahead of itself. Now, on the other side of the hill, Payuma Road, Malibu Canyon, firefighters are staged, making sure the fire does not cross that line on the other side of where we are. We are on the ocean side right now. And you are looking, and this is always devastating. And, folks may have insurance, folks may be able to rebuild, but it is the pieces of people's lives that are left behind, the things that cannot be replaced, the family photographs. Maybe it is a teacup that your grandmother left you, and it means the world to you, and you weren't able to take it with you, and it's now lost. Those things cannot be replaced. A lot of family photos, heirlooms, that is why it is always devastating to watch someone's home burn down. You cannot assume that because a house is in a beautiful area here in Malibu, that folks have their insurance up to date. A lot of folks are having trouble with their insurers right now, so not all houses are insured. Not all people were able to get out what really means something to them, and we've seen this all too often. Bringing it back here live, you can see now as the smoke begins to clear, there's a building right next to where this fire is burning off of Pacific Coast Highway. You can make out the building. Unclear what that is. If that's an apartment building, we see what appears to be a tennis court inside there, but I don't know what that is. If that's an apartment, a condo complex. Hopefully all those folks have gotten out safely. Big concern, and you can see these embers. Photographer Tony Butita, we don't know if you can capture them on camera, but what we see here are those embers just flying across Pacific Coast Highway from those palm trees. The fire just continues to spot ahead and ahead of itself. So very much a very developing story, a story that is going to bring a lot of sadness to so many people, and our hearts go out. We pray that everyone has gotten out safely. They were able to get what means something to them, their pets, their family members. We pray for all of those folks that they have been able to make it to safety. Again, if you're just joining us now live on Good Day LA, this fire, called the Franklin Fire, has been going on since just before 11 o'clock. Of course, the area under a red flag warning. Firefighters warning us yesterday we were going to see the worst of the wind. And we have seen winds much stronger than what we're seeing today. And you can see, if you're looking live right now, you can see that thick black smoke that's sort of headed this way right now. That is a pocket of fresh fuel that the fire just picked up. The smoke, the air is thick with ash, with embers. It's very difficult to see. It's very difficult to breathe right now. The air quality conditions, obviously, not good at all. But if you're just joining us now, this is live coverage of the Franklin Fire. We have Mario Ramirez in the hillside talking to homeowners who have been telling him that they know of multiple homes that have already been lost. Of course, we're not going to be able to get a count until way after the sun comes up. Firefighters right now focused on structure protection on the ocean side here on Pacific Coast Highway and in the hills on Payuma, on Malibu Canyon, making sure the fire does not spot that way. But right now, the focus of the fire is here on Pacific Coast Highway. There are even units staged at Malibu Pier because the fire continues to spot ahead. I'm Gigi Graciette live on Pacific Coast Highway. I'll send it back to you.
Gigi, you make a good point. Regardless of how nice a house is, these are still human beings. And even regardless of what they do or don't lose or are able to rebuild, there's the trauma that is just long-lasting emotionally. When you're out there and you talk to people, when there's any sort of fire danger, even nothing like this, their minds go back to the Woolsey fire. Even children who immediately start to panic because of what they've seen before. Now this, unfortunately, has become another one of those horrors that is just going to stick with you.
I have met families that are searching the rubble maybe for a lost teddy bear that meant the world to their child. I've seen families searching the rubble for a wedding ring that belonged to a grandmother that was left to them that meant everything to them. In that case, that couple actually did find that wedding ring and were able to have it restored. But so many people find absolutely nothing. And ultimately, the story is not about structures. It's not about property. It is about people and the pieces of their life. And not everyone owns a home here. There are also renters. There are apartments. We don't know the condition of everyone who lives out here who may be losing their home right now. And come daylight, we're going to start to see a lot of heartbreaking scenes here. We saw it for ourselves. A home on Sarah just burning to the ground, even though firefighters are staged there. Their biggest challenges, you're looking there at the video that we just shot for you. We couldn't go live from there. The road is narrow. We just got out of the way so firefighters could continue to make their way up, and there's no cell signal up there, but we watched as that home just burned. And that is just one of several that we are hearing about right now in the Franklin Fire as it continues to grow here in the Malibu area.
Speaking of the heartbreak, we heard from a resident who's lived in that area for 25 years, had several homes throughout the course of his stay in the residence and in the area, in the community, and he says it's always scary when they have a red flag warning or a fire breakout. They're never ready. Despite having a go bag, despite knowing the protocol, it is always a scary situation. You go to sleep at night and wake up not knowing if your neighborhood is still there.
We've covered stories. I interviewed a family, and this is a story that has stuck with me for years. They packed their go bag. They packed their family albums, the things that meant the most to them. They didn't want to put it in the car because they were a little, concerned. They didn't want that stuff out there, so they put it by the front door. At 3:30 in the morning, someone pounded on their door. They opened the door, and the fire was on their street. It was racing towards their house. They ran to get out, and they left that go bag behind. And they lost every precious piece of memorabilia they had, the family photos, things that could not be replaced. And it was absolutely heartbreaking. Again, the story isn't about how many structures are lost, the property burnt, the damage done. This is about people, people's lives, people's homes, pieces of people's lives.
Yeah, absolutely, Gigi. Thank you, and we'll continue to check back in with you. For now, let's go up to Stu in Skyfox, who's overhead, who's giving us these aerial shots of the Malibu Mountains aglow. Stu.
Hey, good morning, everybody. This is the first time Skyfox is actually seeing these flames out here. We've been hearing the stories and hearing the acreage and the firefight that is continuing down there. That glow, you can see it from Van Nuys. As soon as you can get up in the air, it is definitely a huge fire out here, and those wind conditions definitely not helping the situation. Now, we are going to try to find a couple of homes out here. Like I said, Skyfox just making our way out here, so I'm trying to kind of figure out exactly where we are, what we're looking at, and what areas we're seeing. Carbon Canyon, you can see that fire truck right there. That's going to be Carbon Beach Terrace, and you can see those fire trucks making their way out towards those flames. It is an ominous scene for sure. I did listen to a couple of those interviews as we were making our way up here, and where the fire has passed through, of course, those neighborhoods, they're probably feeling a lot better about that situation right now, but those flames continue to move. There's plenty of fuel out here, a lot of vegetation, and those winds, again, like I've been saying, not helping that situation at all. Gives you an idea, a little bit of a perspective out there. You can see a rooftop of a home right there off of Carbon Beach Terrace, and those fire trucks and those huge flames ominously in the background. How are these firefighters going to fight this? Well, from the air, and they're going to do what they can on the ground, but it is definitely still moving. High winds definitely not helping the situation, and again, this is also a little bit of a terrain fire, climbing up these hillsides out here, and the vegetation, it's been thick and green out here, so this is going to have a lot of fuel. Right now, that firefight definitely continuing, and again, we do know there are helicopters actually battling these fires with water right now. We haven't seen one, but again, we're just getting here on scene. We're going to get situated. We're going to try to get some better pictures. We understand that there may have been some structures lost already. We're going to try to get the helicopter in that position to see that, but right now, I'm just taking in the scene for the first time this morning, and it is pretty ominous, and again, evacuations going on. 1,600 folks have been evacuated. 1,200 are waiting. I would venture to say Pacific Coast Highway, not sure as of yet, but you can see it right there in the shot. Right now, it does seem like there are still vehicles moving back and forth, but I would venture to say they're going to have some closures there as well. Ladies?
Yeah, this is just jaw-dropping, and I've just been talking about how horrifying this is, just seeing this, and just, from these shots that you're giving us, too, it is a wonder how far out you can see this. Sandra was talking about seeing the glow just coming into our studio here.
Oh, definitely. We saw it. As soon as Skyfox got up in the air, I knew the general direction, and you could actually see the glow out there in the distance. The winds, they are definitely clearing out those clouds, and it made it so it is a very clear night out here, but that's not what the firefighters want to hear about. Those winds are definitely fueling these flames. Right now, the smoke is actually moving. It looks like it's going out towards I'm taking a look at my map here as well. It's kind of blowing out towards the west. That's where all that smoke is, and the flames where the area that's burned is actually out there as well. You can see a lot of glow out there in the background. That's the area that the fire already has passed through, and there are neighborhoods and there are homes out there. Again, we're going to try to make our way somewhere over here. They were hearing of some structures being lost off of Sierra Road. That's going to be here in that glow and in that darkness. You can see some fire trucks down there as well. We're definitely going to move Skyfox around a little bit, but right now the edge of the fire is still moving moving apparently out to the east. That's where that big bloom of fire is, right there. But again, this fire still burning. The firefighters on the ground, in the air. They're doing what they can to control it. But right now, evacuations, if you're living on these hillsides, whatever the fire department and the sheriff's department are telling you, I would venture to say listen to them, because right now these flames still moving very, very quickly due to the winds. And of course, anytime the fire goes uphill, you know they are going to move that much faster. I'm not sure if that's actually a structure protection group right there or actually a firefighting group, but now that we're getting a little bit closer, just the glow from the flames, which is scary, you can actually see that large home being illuminated. It still is quite a distance from those flames, but you know what, if that was my house, I would definitely be worried. And again, these firefighters down there on the ground, they're going to do what they can to do some protection. And we know a lot of these homes, we fly this area a lot, and these are all very modern homes, and they do take care of the grounds around them. They do that structure, they do that vegetation clearance around the homes to keep these homes safe. But you know what, when the winds are blowing, the flames are going to be probably feet high in some of these cases out here. Any of that structure, even the structure protection groups will have an issue with that when the winds are whipping it up and we're coming towards those homes. Right now, the firefight continues, and you can see that line of fire as I'm making my way up the hillside up here. And again, this is going to be all out in the Malibu area, and these flames just ominous.
You could definitely see the personality of this fire from an aerial perspective that Stu is giving us, and the different perspectives that Gigi and Mario were giving us as well. Mario more in the hillside where it kind of felt like that fire line had passed him, and then Gigi in the thick of it right now towards the coast, towards the ocean side on the other side of PCH, where winds were really whipping up and the fire was pretty much ablaze where she was. So clearly two different perspectives, and then you get that overarching view from Skyfox of the aerial fight that firefighters are contending with right there, and the fact that this is a wind-driven event. You could see how the wind is impacting the flames and the smoke in the area. But again, if you're just waking up and you don't even know that a situation like this is happening, you could definitely smell and feel the impact all throughout the Southland, especially the west side. As I was mentioning to Brooke on my way in here, you could smell the smoke really thick in the air as far away as LAX at this point. So clearly this is impacting so many communities throughout the region. And this is Hermosa Beach. Take a look at this live shot. This is right by the pier right there where the volleyball courts are, and you can see Malibu aglow right there from Hermosa Beach. So we're talking about some, 25 miles away, and it's a clear, visible shot. You can see the fire. So again, impacting so many communities, and our hearts, of course, are with Malibu right now and the firefight going on. But again, looking at Stu's perspective, look at that. The winds just hopefully calming down, right? Samara is going to give us an update all morning long on the impact of the winds right now, but clearly this is just awful what firefighters and the community there have to contend with.
And truly, we can just hope for the best in so many different aspects of this. Stu, thank you. Of course, we're going to check back in with you throughout the morning as you're able to get an even better look at this. Right now, we want to take you back to a video of a photographer sending us this video in, just trying to drive through the area, trying to move through the area, really as this was getting underway overnight. I also want you to be able to listen in a little bit just to see what they were dealing with. Just look at this.
Okay, copy that. I'll keep you advised.
So scary.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, right here.
Right. This is why roads are shut down. This is why there are mandatory evacuation orders in place. This is why there are shelter-in-place orders This is why no one should be in this area unless, you know, they are a part of an emergency response. No one should be coming in to this area. This is just terrifying.
Yeah, the thing about these roads too, there's no turnoff. There's no other street to escape
You
from.
can't get out of it once you get in.
You're trapped right on that narrow road, and I'm sure you've covered many fires before, especially in these canyon roads. It is devastating. It's so scary to drive through just like he did, and you never know what's going to spark a fire, whether on your vehicle or whether it jumps on the other side of the road or not. It's just terrifying. And again, all the journalists out there, the photographers, the crews working this scene, as well as the fire crews, I mean, this is just the kind of conditions that they have to work through.
They're making a sacrifice so that you can stay safe. So heed the orders. We have Samada here now because, Samada, obviously we can predict, you know, these winds, at least from your perspective, and you can tell us what we can expect, but you never know what they're going to do to a fire. And so someone can see something and think, okay, it's not too bad. And then here, you know, here come the winds, and it's terrifying.
The situation can change so rapidly as we were watching those terrifying images of RMG News driving through low visibility, a narrow canyon road, flames coming on both sides, embers flying throughout the area. Again, the reason why you want to stay off the roads and leave it to the professionals, the firefighters out there that are constantly making sure that the community is okay. And we are continuing to watch those winds. All this is due to the upper levels of the atmosphere. We have an area of high pressure. There's some upper level support situated with it, and those tightening pressure gradients, those descending winds coming out of the northeast, that's what we call the Santa Anas. As it snakes its way through those canyon passes, it actually becomes stronger and drying as it goes down these hill and mountain areas. Here's a look at the Franklin fire currently just right above Malibu Beach, and we've been keeping tabs on locations like Pepperdine University. We do have current conditions wind-wise. The range has been exactly where we had forecasted, and we were forecasting this strong Santa Ana wind event since last week for that potential because all the air masses were lining up, and unfortunately we are seeing the reality of it. 12 to 20 miles per hour gusts, a range of 14 to 34 miles an hour, and those are current conditions. We had right around 1:31 early this morning tracking a gust of up to 50 miles an hour, hence the rapid spread of this fire. And as we know, fires create their own weather conditions, erratic winds, as all that heat coming up from the brush and the foliage, it's replaced by a lot of cooler air, and with the two combined mixed in creates these erratic fire conditions with the stronger winds, and those embers, due to the prevailing winds, pushes those embers miles downwind and could create new spot fires. And unfortunately, we are seeing that play out. Humidity down to 6 to 12%, so incredibly dry out there. We haven't had measurable precipitation, at least for the month of December. We just started this month, and no rain currently in the forecast. If anything, just continuing to see these tender, dry conditions. This is very similar. The Santa Ana winds event that we're experiencing is similar to what we were experiencing last month. If you recall, during the mountain fire, we had predicted the ferocious winds that were coming into play, and just like that, one spark was able to lead to just mass devastation. Just our hearts go out to the community that's being impacted right now in the fire zone areas. Acres, the update from Cal Fire is 1,822 and containment at 0%. We do have, again, all the local firefighters working with this scene. We also have gotten word that Ventura County Fire, as well as LA County Fire, and in conjunction with Orange County Fire Department, also participating in this firefight. Red flag conditions continue to be a concern, and that will stay in place through at least tomorrow evening for some spots. And this does encompass the Santa Monica Mountains into Ventura County interior valleys. And it's not just, again, the Santa Monica area, but the red flag conditions apply to much of Southern California. So So a reminder, if there is a spark, it could trigger these similar conditions. So make sure if you see something, you say something. The first 10 to 15 minutes of reporting a fire could rapidly, again, increase the chances of attacking it just in time to, take care of the issue. Northeast winds 20-30 miles an hour, gusts to 35 to 60 with low relative humidity throughout the day today, 5 to 10%. We have been incredibly dry, as I had mentioned. High pressure is the reason this round. It's creating these mild conditions. You can see the wind arrows driving itself through those canyons and passes and going offshore. We continue to see temperatures, again, more on the mild side. There may be locations that could experience slightly above average temperatures as air filters through those passes. It actually increases the temperature reading. Wind futurecast, just to play this out, the areas in the contour highlight locations, those are the vulnerable locations of where the Santa Ana winds are currently being very aggressive at the moment. This also applies to up and down the 5 corridor. We have, of course, big rigs and campers and a lot of folks utilizing the Grapevine, and that is also being impacted by those strong winds. And then you couple that with also the 15 stretch also being heavily impacted. If you're heading out to the Coachella Valley, the San Gorgonio Pass with wind gusts could range the 35 to 50 miles an hour mark and downwind of the Santa Ana Mountains. So this is a widespread wind event, and we take it into Tuesday. So yes, this afternoon still pretty strong. Not a whole lot of relief in sight. The relief, those winds diminishing not until at least later this evening, and we'll finally see those winds subside not until at least Wednesday. So early tomorrow morning, and that's when we'll get a better handle on the wind conditions. We've got relative humidity, as I mentioned, in the fire zone. 8 to 11% currently, and you can tell how dry it is currently. An indication of where the strongest winds are is this area. Meanwhile, we have relative humidity on the higher side away from those dry conditions. Fire danger still part of the forecast with winds still possible, gusts of 35 to 50, even 60 plus. Power outages is still in the forecast. Down trees due to those strong winds. Power lines could be down. That could lead to public safety power shutoffs. So make sure you stay on top of, again, your conditions in your area, and travel continues to be a concern. These winds, unfortunately, we are in the thick of it still, and watching it play out is just, again, quite a sight to see.
Yeah, definitely heartbreaking. Thank you, Samana. Heartbreaking for so many of the residents who have been issued an evacuation order. Hopefully they have left the area already. But here's some information you need to know if you need a shelter. If you have nowhere to go, you can go to Palisades Recreation Center at 851 Alma Real Drive in Pacific Palisades. Also, animal shelters are set up at Agoura Animal Care Center in Agoura Hills and at Pierce College in Woodland Hills.
We're coming up on 4:57 this morning. We want to give you a look at just like what you can see and from where. So this is our camera right here situated at LAX. Look at that, wow. Sandra. This is the area you were in where you could see this already.
You could smell also the smoke. It was very, very heavy and thick already. So I wouldn't be surprised if people woke up to their cars maybe with a little layer of ash, or definitely if you're going on an exercise or a walk or a jog this morning, you really want to be mindful of the air quality. Even if you feel like, oh, I'm nowhere near Malibu, you will definitely feel and smell the impact of this fire, really widespread because of the winds really fanning the flames here.
Yeah, this is West LA, our camera actually right on top of our studio here. So right here on Bundy, look at that. Wow. This just, again, all of these different angles, all of these different shots, it really just puts it in perspective, just what we're dealing with, how far away this is, and how clearly you can see Malibu on fire.
Yeah, wow. It's truly a sight to see, especially at night when it's so aglow, and then you can see just the flames and, look at that, a live look at Santa Monica, from Santa Monica, looking at Malibu right now. This is just how big and widespread it's become. Initially, when it broke out, you know, we were talking about just a couple hundred acres burned, and now it's well over 1,800 acres burning at this point. The Franklin fire devastating Malibu and the community there, but that live shot from Santa Monica is clearly showing the impact. And this is a time lapse of what we've been talking about. when the fire broke out at around 10:50, 11 o'clock last night, and in the overnight hours, there you see it, the time lapse showing the changes of the fire, the smoke, and how widespread it's become. You could see the flames really just topping that ridgeline right there of the Santa Monica Mountains, and just, oh, look at how widespread at this point.
I have the chills just watching that. Samara was just talking about the importance of reporting anything as soon as you see it, right? Because again, they started as a brush fire, something that, you know, you could have hope would be able to go away, would be able to be contained quickly. But because of these winds, because of just really the area and how the danger, the fire danger just already in this area, it quickly grew overnight to more than 1,800 acres. And that's where we are right now.
Definitely devastating and very hard to watch. But of course, we're going to have all the latest information for you all throughout the morning on Good Day LA, of course, as the fire continues to turn and change, and obviously communities are waking up right now. The sun will be coming out, and of course we'll get more and more updates from fire authorities and obviously residents who have been impacted by this as well. But clearly showing you different vantage points and different viewpoints of the Franklin fire burning in Malibu.
Hey there, good morning. Yes, I'm Brooke Thomas. Thanks for joining us.
And thanks, for being here. I'm Sandra Endo. Welcome to Good Day LA. Right now at 5 o'clock, of course, the breaking news we're covering in Malibu.
That's right. We do have breaking news in Malibu. That's where an out-of-control wildfire continues to spread in the hillsides near Pepperdine University. Students are now under shelter-in-place orders. We're actually going to go out to, I believe, Gigi Graciette, close to the scene there with more. Gigi.
Good morning, Brooke. Good morning, everyone. We're on Pacific Coast Highway looking at Civic Center Way, and you can see by my hair that the wind continues to pose a significant threat and a challenge to firefighters. The wind very erratic, blowing in all directions and causing this fire to spot ahead. Now take a look. This is an open field right now, but the concern is it is burning right next to Malibu Canyon Village, which appears to be either a condominium or an apartment complex here on the 23,000 block of Civic Center Way. Again, Malibu Canyon Village, no damage. Firefighters are staged there for structure protection, but this is where just one of multiple areas where this fire is burning. Now, just a short while ago, the city of Malibu put out some information that could be important to our viewers. An evacuation shelter has now been set up at Palisades Recreation Center. This is on Alma Real Drive. It has been upgraded to an evacuation center, and they are accepting pets in carriers or crates. Now, if you have a larger pet, you can shelter that pet at Pierce College in Woodland Hills. And you might be able to hear the wind, which is certainly picking up, which it tends to do during the sunrise hours. And this is causing a big challenge for firefighters. In addition to the low humidity, the fuel moisture, these conditions all combine to cause what firefighters call explosive fire growth. And can you see the fire is sort of causing its own weather? They're creating its own weather pattern. We often see what are referred to as fire tornadoes at the scene of the fire, and that's what we're starting to see here. The fire situation creating its own weather pattern, and you can see how erratic the wind is. It just changes direction, causing the fire to spot ahead a mile or two, and that has firefighters just fanning out throughout the hills of Malibu. Now let's go to some video we shot for you earlier, and this is difficult to watch. Keep in mind, this is someone's home. This is on the 3500 block of Sarah here in Malibu, and we watched as this house was just burning. It appears to be a total loss already. We also watched as our colleagues, our freelance news photographers, were called into action to help firefighters start to pull hose, and they went to work. They put their cameras down. The priority is always saving property and life, even for those of us that are not firefighters. Those photographers jumping into action when they were called to help, and they began pulling hose, trying to help as much as they can. So a shout out to them, working hard, trying to document an important news story, but also knowing when you have a priority. Again, you're looking live at Civic Center Drive. You might be able to make out those embers that are just flying across Pacific Coast Highway. We're going to continue monitoring this. For now, we'll send it back to the studio.
All right. right, Gigi, thank you. Of course, we'll check back in with you in a bit. Right now, we have a live look from Sky Fox with Stu Mundell. Stu.
Well, we've been keeping an eye on this flank of the fire. This is going to be on the most western end of the flames, and this is where the firefight is still moving. These flames really starting to get into this area. Now, just moments ago, we saw a huge gust of wind just light up this entire area right here. It's hard to see right now, but there is actually a construction trailer right there, and you can see part of that construction trailer on fire. The wind shifted. There was this huge ball of fire, and those flames just started licking those buildings right there. Now that is going to be a construction trailer, possibly maybe some sort of container, a little bit of fire there. There are firefighters nearby, but this home, I'm sure, is what the firefighters are very concerned about. They've got structure protection. We saw the fire trucks actually make their way into that driveway. Firefighters making their way through that home, making sure there is nobody in there. Where is all this? This is on Carbon Beach Terrace. Now we're going to show you where this is and also give you an idea how close these flames are to that home. Now, mind you, there is some vegetation clearance in that area, but those flames are just about 200 feet away, maybe 300 feet away from that home in that direction. And if those winds kick up again, we watch those embers bounce around. Now, we've talked about it in the past. A lot of the homes out here are built up to code, if not even beyond code. This one, a much newer home, you can see right there, very little wood, no shingle shake roofs or anything like that. So I would venture to say that they've done everything they can to keep that home safe from any kind of flames. But again, with a fast-moving fire like this and those huge flames, it is very difficult to keep any structure safe. Now, on Sarah, we're going to try to show you that one right now. We've been hearing about structures being lost. Now, even Sky Fox can't make our way over there right now, but we can show you on the map, and there is still glowing embers in that area. Now, that the right where I'm showing you right there, you can't see it, but there is actually the address of the 3500 block, 3600 block, and all we see right there is embers. That's the area that the flames have basically come through. That's going to be the burnt earth, the scorched earth, because the fire started more out towards Malibu Canyon and is actually working its way up the hill. Now, the only thing I can say in the fire that's helping the firefighters in the sense of nature is the winds are actually kind of pushing it against its natural climb up the hillside. That's what we're seeing right here, because you can see that smoke clearly moving on the opposite direction of where the flames are going. So they're trying to, the flames are moving up the hill, but the winds are actually slowing it down. Now, in this area right here, you can see on that, because we have the map up, there are no streets up here in this area. That's just going to be vegetation. As I say that, you can see there are some homes out here on Coastal Del Sol Way, and I also see some flashing lights that venture to say those are going to be firefighters, and of course, that's what we're seeing right there, firefighters and structure protection. Now, every one of those lights that you're seeing, I venture to say there's a home there or nearby, so they're going to do what they can, but those look like smaller homes, maybe older homes. Hopefully those flames will wane before they get up to that area. We're definitely going to keep an eye on it, but this firefight, very active. Those firefighters down there, trained professionals, and really putting it to the limits this morning as that fire continues to burn and those winds keep pushing it through that area. Like I said earlier on when we were looking at that Carbon Canyon or Carbon Beach Terrace roadway area, look at that. There's that one home, and it is just surrounded by these huge flames right now. We'll keep an eye on it. I venture to say, just because of the condition of that home, the time and the building and the codes, I venture to say it will be safe. But then again, I thought for sure none of that construction material would actually catch fire, and that is now burning in that empty field right there. Firefighters, they're out there. They're going to pick and choose what they can battle, because sometimes, you know what, they just got to let it go, because there's very little they can do when those flames and those winds are pushing it at that type of velocity and speed. But right now, you can see it. This is an active firefight unfolding right before our eyes. Sky Fox keeping an eye on it. And again, a lot of those streets out there, hopefully everybody's gotten out. But on those streets are all our first responders, and they're doing what they can to save structures. And on Sarah Way, we're hearing maybe a couple of homes. If you really look at all the area that has burned, this is pretty amazing that the number of homes that have burned compared to the area and the density in that area. Those firefighters doing an amazing job. Sending it back to you all in the studio.
All right, Stu, we appreciate that. Thank you. Obviously, Pepperdine University, you know, right right in the thick of this, truly. And so the school administrators have asked students to shelter in place. This is a look actually inside one of those locations. They've asked students to stay in either the Tyler Campus Center and Payson Library at least until daylight. They do not want students to leave. They believe this is the safest place for them. Matter of fact, Bon Appetit, they've let us know, is preparing breakfast. They're going to actually start serving breakfast to these students there in both locations very shortly. Again, this fire now more than 1,800 acres, threatening some 2,000 structures in the area of Malibu. Power is out across much of campus. That is part of why they have these two specific locations where they want you to stay. We actually were able to talk to a student that heeded this warning and got there. Listen to this.
Yeah, so as you can see behind me, we have the flames. I'm right by the entrance of the library. So this is the window that you see when you walk in on the second floor. These flames are getting really, really close, as you can see, right around here. And then right in front of me, there's also quite a few students. So if you look over here, there's a lot of students that are standing around the window, watching a fire, getting video, because it is very stressful and they want to see what's happening.
Classes very clearly have been canceled for today. Final exams have been canceled. Any schedule for today, they've been postponed. They're actually going to release an updated final schedule later today by the dean's office of each school. Most importantly, these students are safe, and that's what school administrators, that's what they're focused on right now. We're going to keep a close watch on the university and keep you updated.
That's right. Let's go out to Mario Ramirez, who's been live on the scene all morning long and has shown us different perspectives of this fire. At this point, Mario, what do you see right now?
Hi, we're at Civic Center and Stewart Ranch Road, and the winds have really picked up in just the last 20 to 30 minutes. I want to show you some of the activity. We're watching some active flames here burning near Santa Monica College, just maybe a couple hundred yards, but it doesn't look like it's burning through any structures here at this point, but those flames are spreading quickly and the winds are really whipping around here, causing those embers to skip over the roads where we are stationed here at this 5 o'clock hour now. Several strike teams from multiple agencies are out here responding. We've seen them making their way through these streets that are closed right now for evacuations. Law enforcement, the LA County Sheriff's Department has been helping with mandatory evacuations. Over 2,000 structures under mandatory evacuations, 1,200 under warnings, and we counted at least 2 structures, homes, multi-million-dollar homes that had burned just above the hillside near PCH and Sweetwater Canyon. 300 firefighters, 6 water-dropping helicopters, and we've seen several of those water drops here throughout the morning. They're really using all resources available here. The good news is there are no injuries reported, but this has been an aggressive and active firefight on the ground and in the air. Multiple agencies, but LA County Fire, of course, leading the firefighting efforts here. And evacuations east of Malibu Canyon Road, south of Piuma Road, the Sarah Retreat area, and again, Pacific Coast Highway between Topanga Canyon and Laurel Canyon is shut down for an unknown amount of time while those fire crews make their way through. So you can see that active activity here, the wind really picking up. We're feeling those strong gusts. I know they were estimated to be between 30 to 40 miles per hour at times, and they will last through the morning. So the air quality has gotten worse. The winds have gotten a bit stronger, which is unfortunate for the firefighting efforts out here, but we'll keep an eye on things as the crews out here move from location to location. The priority is structure protection, getting all of these residents out safely. If you get one of those evacuation orders, heed the warning. We talked to several residents who said they knew that this type of weather, that these Santa Ana winds were coming, and they wish they would have prepared sooner because they never really know when it's going to hit, what's going to happen. So please pay attention to those warnings, and if you hear it on a loudspeaker, if you hear from law enforcement to get out and evacuate, please do. That's the latest here in this area, again near Santa Monica College. For now, we'll send it back to you live in Malibu.
Yeah, you know, just taking a look at Mario there, obviously you can just see how this has escalated. Obviously, I imagine it's getting hard to breathe out there, Mario.
Yeah, it definitely is. Earlier, we had the mask off. We probably should have had it on, but it was okay. We weren't struggling. But once we got here to this spot, a lot worse. You can definitely easily breathe in those particles. So something to keep in mind. The air quality here in this area will be a mess throughout the day for sure. That is definitely going to be the case.
And the eye protection as well, wearing those goggles and the mask, it just shows how different and quickly things can change, right, Mario, depending on your location and where the winds are blowing.
Yeah, some of the residents who had evacuated, they were standing by near their homes because they know how quickly things can change, how quickly an ember can ignite a fire, a spot fire up to 2 miles usually is how far they can go, even more. So definitely a concern as we've been watching. Look, you can even see behind me all these fire crews here stationed, kind of figuring out which direction to go in, because we can see one fire over here just up the hillside, another one to the east. So they're kind of making their way through this checkpoint and figuring out which hillside to target, because there are multiple fires that we see in different directions here in this part of Malibu.
All right, Mario, thank you. Speaking of checkpoints, as he mentioned, a 6-mile stretch of PCH is closed east of Corral Canyon Road and west of Las Flores Canyon Road. So clearly keep off of that road and the area, because first responders definitely need a way to get to these impacted areas. Las Virgenes Road as well continues, as Malibu Canyon Road on the way to the coast is closed south of Mulholland Highway all the way to PCH as well. So that's according to Malibu officials, shutting down some of those roads that are really important to access the neighborhoods that have been impacted by the Franklin fire.
Yeah, they're making it clear, actually, like officials, specifically Malibu Canyon Road, again, as you said, from Mulholland to PCH, that only emergency vehicles will be allowed to pass. So don't even try it. It's not going to be a possibility. It's not just about the difficulties. They are not going to let you through.
And speaking of the evacuation orders, just to remind people, much of central Malibu, covering 6,000 homes, have been issued this evacuation order. We're talking about Tuna Creek to Carbon Beach to Puerco Canyon, and approximately Puerco Canyon to Trancas Canyon as well. So hopefully, as we've been mentioning, people understood the warning and made sure to get out while they could before that knock on the door.
Listen, many of those early warnings about the dangers and the possibility of what we could end up seeing today came from our meteorologist here in-house, Samada Khan, yesterday morning, just talking about these winds. And that's a big part of this. That's the story here, because this started small.
It started small. As you both reported, this fire began right around 10:50 last night, and we started to notice how quickly it grew due to those ferocious winds. This is unfortunately the perfect ingredients in place. We have this is a wind-driven fire where the upper levels of the atmosphere have winds gusts of up to even 50 miles an hour, and that was clocked in at the Pepperdine campus right around 1:30 this morning. And then you have sustained winds of up to 20 to 30 miles an hour. Currently, those winds are right around 12 to 20, so right around that range that we had forecasted, and that continues to drive, again, the fire. We also couple that with dry conditions, a lot of dry vegetation. This was also a fuel-driven fire, and on top of that, it's also a terrain-driven fire due to the mountains and the foothill communities. A fire can rapidly speed up as it goes uphill, and you could see all that play out. Unfortunately, just again, a devastating look at what the fire is doing. And as Mario pointed out, there are multiple fires, and those upper level winds continue to drive those embers downwind for several miles as possible and creating new spot fires, and that in itself could create another fire. So the fire department and all the local officials and the strike teams have a lot going against them. As we saw the live video of the smoke from the fire, as Gigi and Mario pointed out, just really thick and hard to breathe. And then you see those flying embers, just a really difficult situation. Humidity down to 6%, so incredibly dry conditions. We haven't received any measurable rain in the month of December. If anything, we're actually at a deficit deficit in terms of rainfall totals, and that continues to make our vegetation tinder dry. Acreage so far, according to CAL FIRE, 1,822, and containment at 0%. We continue to watch these wind conditions, and red flag conditions also remain in place all the way through at least tomorrow evening in some spots. And you can see it incorporates just about everywhere across Southern California. Taking a look at our future wind gusts, we are not out of the woods. This is a long duration Santa Ana wind event. We take it all the way, not just 5 a.m. where wind gusts could reach up to 48 to 50, if not stronger in some areas, but this is also widespread. Look at areas of the Inland Empire communities and areas of downwind of the Santa Ana Mountains also being impacted by these strong winds, and it is widespread. You can take a look at our red flag warnings remaining in place again through at least Wednesday evening in some spots where gusts could still range between 35 to 60 miles per hour. So Southern California very vulnerable to fire growth. If a new fire were to ignite, erratic and fire behavior could unfortunately come into fruition. And as we mentioned earlier, a fire can create its own weather. As we get the hot, intense air rising up, we got cooler air replacing it, and it creates this erratic wind behavior. We've seen that in the fire nados, and that is also a possibility in the ridge areas, the ridge tops in the fire zone near the Franklin fire. Our water year, just to give you an idea of how much rain we've got, at least for the downtown LA area, trace amounts in October, below average, 14/100ths of an inch of rain in November, and that's nothing at all. In December, typically our third wettest month of the entire year. We have not seen any rainfall so far, at least for this week. No rain in the forecast. There may be a slight opportunity, a 10% chance that by Sunday we might get some precipitation, but again, it's a little ways out. So we are very dry, and I've been covering, again, Southern California weather conditions and news for quite some time, about 25 years, and I've seen the pattern. We get the excessive rainfall, like what we received last year, if you remember, the atmospheric river storms that brought our rain totals to well above normal, and the excess water created vegetation growth, excessive vegetation growth, and then you go into the dry summer period, then the very same vegetation and the foliage dries up, creating, and if we don't get any rain from the summer, it creates these dry conditions. Then we get the Santa Anas that come in the fall, and you get the Santa Ana winds with the dryness, and unfortunately we get these dangerous explosive fire conditions. And so far, again, this week, no rain in the forecast. Taking a look at on average December, over 2 inches of rain. We are at a deficit of 1.73 inches, so we are bone dry. High pressure is the reason, coupled with upper level support and those descending winds, create dry conditions, mild temperatures, and wind speeds into the 50s. Our winds, we're not anticipating them to diminish until at least we're talking about Tuesday evening, so tonight, and finally we'll see those winds relax into tomorrow morning. So this is a very long duration fight that we've got ahead. Send back over to you two.
All right, Samantha, thank you. You're taking a look at the Franklin fire burning in Malibu to give you a better perspective from the Sky Fox. Let's go to Stu, who could give us an aerial view of what you're looking at now, Stu.
Hey, good morning, Sandra. Good morning, everybody. Take a look at that. Now, this is a hot spot. This is going to be closer to towards Pacific Coast Highway. This is one of the hot spots that we've been keeping an eye on right there. There is one home nearby. That's right off of Carbon Beach Terrace. Now, you can take a look right here. Now, you can see that fire line. This is quite a distance away, but you've got Carbon Mesa Road right there. And these are those older Malibu homes right there. And you can see a lot of LA County firefighters and maybe city firefighters there as well, doing some structure protection. Right now, this is the area where the fire is heading towards. Even though the winds are kind of pushing it the other way, the terrain is going to bring it towards those homes. Let's take a look at that huge fire line that everybody's seeing from such a distance away. The top part of it, the most closest to the valley, it's going to be all the way up by Piuma and Malibu Canyon Road. That's that area that I'm showing you right in here. That's going to be, it's not right at the intersection, but it's very near Piuma and Malibu Road. And then it makes its way all the way down to Pacific Coast Highway, that fire line that I'm showing you right there. Now, this is the active fire line. This is the portion of the fire that's still really burning, kind of climbing up the hills. The winds are not helping. There are plenty of homes in the way, but that 1,600 acres that's already burned, or maybe even more, I think maybe it's up to 1,800, that's going to be in the area that's more towards the center of the screen. And there's still a lot of hot spots out there, and there's still a lot of homes. Now, the firefighters are in those areas still on a lot of those streets. That's actually Stewart Ranch Road right there. Let's put up the map, and you can see a lot of those embers glowing. I worry sometimes when you see something like that, that especially like a line, you think that that might be a foundation or possibly somebody's home that is burned. But right now, the fire site's still very, very active out here. Helicopters, we've seen at least 2 of them do drops, and I believe those are going to be the LA County Firehawks on this active fire line, this portion that you're seeing right here. Now, this is going to be on the eastern flank of the fire, but it's still, and the winds seem to be pushing the flames out to the west. So it's kind of working against each other. That's the only big thing that the firefighters might have in their favor right now for this active fire line, that and the fact that they've got all that training and those Firehawks. But right now, the fire continues to burn in this area right here. A lot of fuel to fuel those flames, but thank goodness, not a lot of homes. Sending it back to you all in the studio.
And things will look very different once the sun comes out, and we can assess the damage, and fire crews will be able to see what exactly they're contending with when they have daylight. But right now, it does look ominous, as you've been mentioning, Stu, with the wind and the hot spots that you've been showing us, how the fire is turning around and going different places depending on the wind and the weather right there. We did get a chance to look at Mario, I guess, who's setting up his shot right there, but ooh. Things are definitely changing, and it looks like he has some neighbors there that he can be talking to, hopefully with us, to get a sense of what they're dealing with right now. But again, you're looking at Skyfox, at one of those hot spots that we've been monitoring right by Carbon Beach Terrace, a house that is under threat at this point. Let's go out to Mario, who could maybe talk to some of those residents there, see what they're going through. Mario.
Yeah, hi, yes, we're on Civic Center and Stephen Ranch Road near the Santa Monica College campus here in Malibu, and we're seeing some residents here passing through, kind of wondering what to do when these roads will reopen, trying to get back home. What are your names?
Cody Paquette and Colin Broth.
Where are you guys trying to go this morning?
I was trying to stay active out here, check out what's going on, stay in the area, see if all is well.
All right, you said you live in Point Doom. Things are okay there?
Yeah, things are all well there.
What road? I know you guys just drove down this road here. Where'd you guys come from?
We came from Carbon Canyon.
And what did things look like along Carbon Canyon?
Pretty kind of messy up top, lots of fire trucks. Not really sure what's going on there right now.
Yeah, so as we look at the flames here, what's your reaction? I know you were mentioning the laboratory that's close by.
Yeah.
It could be really bad. This is just a throwback. We lived here during the Woolsey fire. We've lived here our whole lives, and this is really bad. This is one of the worst we've seen, so.
Yeah, worst fire in a while for here.
Yeah, and the flames that you're seeing now, we've been kind of feeling these gusts pick up very strong here this morning. You must be used to these winds here in this area, but feeling them this morning with the fire, that's got to be nerve-wracking here this morning.
Yeah, it's definitely not something you like to see. The wind's pretty common, though, especially this time of year when it's dry like this. So, yeah, it gets crazy, though.
All right, so we've got several strike teams out here from multiple agencies, road closures in the area, over 2,000 structures that are in mandatory evacuations, and 1,200 under warnings right now. So we counted at least 2 structures down by PCH and Sweetwater Canyon that were burned by the flames here of the Franklin fire. How many would you say? I know you said earlier there were some homes that you saw.
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably guess at least 10 if there's only 2 so far, but it looked like there was a lot more going on by Carbon Canyon, like Sarah Retreat area.
Okay, so Carbon Canyon, Sarah Tree area, you saw multiple homes burning as we continue to watch some of these flames pick up. And I know you two were just mentioning, is that a gas line? Is that an active gas line that, you know, people in the area should be worried about? Because we've been watching these flames really shoot up. So these firefighters doing an amazing job. They've really been going from spot to spot here as we've been watching these embers flying around and these flames, serious flames here this morning that have been making their way through the city of Malibu in dry dry brush with these Santa Ana winds that picked up yesterday. And this all started late last night, around 1,800, over 1,800 acres. The good news here is that there are no injuries reported, but this aggressive and active firefight on the ground and in the air continues with multiple agencies on the scene. If you get one of those evacuation warnings, I know we received several alerts, warnings on our phone, just letting us know that we are in an area where an evacuation is in place. So if you get one of those alerts, please pay attention, leave the area if you're told to do so, because firefighters and law enforcement are making their way through this part of Malibu. For now, we're live here on the ground. We'll send it back to you in the studio.
Do you know what you're looking at, by the way, right Thank now? You. Actually, Mario, do you have to go right now? Because I wanted to talk to you about just the people you've been able to talk to this morning. It's been really powerful. I believe you talked to a man named Walter, who had said that he had gotten his neighbor to safety. And I thought it was so interesting, the calm that he had while also still pretty scared. At one point, I think he said, you know, I think my house is gone, but I'm okay.
Yeah, we were talking to that gentleman a little earlier. His name was Walter Tharp, and he lived on Beckledge Terrace, and that's near PCH and Sweetwater Canyon. And we spoke with him maybe about an hour and a half ago, and he said he evacuated his home, and he helped two of his neighbors evacuate. And nearby, one home on Ridgemont Drive we saw burned. Another in a cul-de-sac on the hillside we saw burned as well. So we saw at least two, and we just heard from these gentlemen here. They saw several more along Carbon Canyon. So it's definitely a concern. A lot of these residents here say that they've lived here a long time and they're numb to it. They're used to this type of activity, but they never know when it's going to strike, when things can change in an instant, when it'll get close to them. So they really just have to be on standby and monitoring things. We spoke to another resident, Jim Vickers, who lives down closer to PCH along the coastline. He was under an evacuation, a mandatory evacuation order, but did not leave and decided to stay by his home to see what the fire did. And in that area, it seemed like they started to die down. So it was looking a little better. So he was relieved, but I'm sure he is still in that area on the street, watching the activity, watching those embers fly around. Not sure exactly what's going to happen. So the area you're looking at now is near Malibu City Hall. So that's what we've been watching. It doesn't appear from our vantage point that any structures are burning here in this area. It just looks like vegetation. But again,